and I just want to pay tribute to the Honourable Lady from Penistone and Stocksbridge for bringing this really important debate. And although it is clearly, as the Honourable Member for Strangford just said, it's a separate legislative process in Scotland, I recognise the support and assistance that she has offered me over my time in this place, and the support from other members present. And whilst this is England and Wales focused, the Scottish perspective, I think, is important to highlight. This is not a matter of moral outrage or social conservatism, which is often a label that is used. This, for me, is essentially, fundamentally about safeguarding. Safeguarding has been a constant in my life, in my professional life, from my early days in mental health care and looking after vulnerable people through that lens, right up to working with children and young people in cancer care. And the principles are to engender in your organisation a broad awareness of the kinds of issues that you may face and the kind of red flags that you may see. It's a shared responsibility. It's a responsibility, I believe, that everyone in society has a responsibility to participate in. And I don't think it's something that we should in any way put at risk. We have seen in recent years awareness has increased because of misdeeds in religious circles, sports coaches circles, teaching staff, and indeed in my experience in healthcare, where people have used their position of influence and authority for nefarious purposes. And those who will abuse will find a way. And that is just a matter of fact. Predators will go to great lengths to access those they prey upon. And so how have we responded as a society? We have had stranger danger education, public awareness, introduction of safeguarding legislation and policies. We've dealt with concerns in an open and non-judgmental way. We have set up multidisciplinary practices of child protection teams, vulnerable adult teams. We have not jumped to conclusions and ascribed labels to individuals, but we have taken the necessary steps to explore any circumstance to ensure that if there is harm, that it is limited and it is stopped where that is the case. We have down here the DBS system, and in Scotland, Disclosure Scotland, to ensure that those who have a criminal history of predatory nature are identified and prevented from entering certain spheres of life. In my professional life, I have had enhanced disclosure in every single job that I've had, and it has never been a particular issue. But there are implications from those who use deed poll to change their identity, or indeed the growing concerns about GRC identity changes, particularly around DBS. And I met with an organisation this morning who have told me that there are some privacy concerns where people who use that method, or indeed deed poll, may be able to circumvent the process of disclosing prior history, and I would suggest that the national insurance number would be a constant identifier where that would be dealt with. But there are other ways that we find out about these nefarious practices: disclosure from the child or the young person themselves, witnesses, evidence, and indeed criminal investigation. And in that vein, a teacher in Scotland has recently been sent to jail for 3 years for molesting 2 young boys, one aged 11, one aged 12, and that investigation was peppered with sexualised language that this teacher used with these young men. Like all predatory behaviour, this was about power, control and manipulation. And it included, as I said, these sexualised uses of language. So in terms of parents and safeguarding, what we must look out for is changes in the behaviour of the young person, whether they become withdrawn, if they start to use language which is overly sexualised. And these are the red flags that are normally identified by professionals working with young people, whether it's social workers, teachers, or indeed healthcare workers. And if we introduce the types of language and the types of knowledge that the Honourable Lady mentioned in her opening remarks. The dice game is utterly shocking. It is dehumanising, and it reduces sex to that penetrative... Yes, of course, I'll give way.
What he's saying, isn't it boiled down to a very simple point, which is knowledge without context or consequence is dangerous. And the understanding that children of these ages, who are often in doubt about who they are, where they are, what they do, sometimes shy and retiring, are very vulnerable to that knowledge leading them down a road without the understanding of exactly what the context is and the consequences that come from decisions that are made that they may be too young to judge. If that's applied, then a lot of this stuff that my honourable friend has said would disappear out of the curriculum because it was inappropriate.
I thank the right honourable gentleman for that intervention. He makes a very important point, and the point that I take from that is really around capacity and the ability to comprehend one's adult sexual being when you are 7 is simply impossible. It is simply unattainable. So I will try to speed up. So the introducing such sexualised language will camouflage or mask those red flags, and that is a dangerous facility. There is no place for adult sexualised language in pre-puberty education.